600 wins, 6 Georgia State championships, 16 regional championships, 2-time National Coach of the Year, first team from Georgia to win the City of Palms Classic, the nation's #1 high school tournament, first team in Georgia history to attend the Dick's Sporting Goods National Tournament of Championships. He's produced numerous NBA players and professional basketball players all over the world. It's real basketball talk. It's real help and real life with Coach Doug Lipscomb on the BG Podcast Network. Real Life Basketball is brought to you by the all-new 2018 K900 at Carriage Kia of Woodstock and Gainesville. Buy your new K900 from Carriage Kia and we'll fly you in or come pick you up for delivery. Visit CarriageKia.com 24/7, 365 days a year. For America's best deal on the K900, call Chris Stanford directly at 1-866-333-2122. That's 1-866-333-2122.
And welcome to Real Life Basketball. Darren Sutherland, Doug Lipscomb, the legend, 500 victories, countless state championships, and just all over the place, ain't he, Nick?
Yeah, he's a legendary coach all over Marietta and Atlanta, and that's for sure. Everywhere
and
he goes.
And the Southeast. I mean, not just Southeast. He's not in the room, so I'm going to give him props. I don't ever give him props when he's in the room. But, you know, he coached the McDonald's All-American game. He's, had 2 top 7 lottery picks in the NBA draft. Sharif Abdul-Rahim went to Vancouver back in the day. And Jaylen Brown went to the Boston Celtics a couple of years ago. Then he's had other countless, players, J.J. Hickson,
J. Hickson, and he we can't forget he sat Michael Conley during the McDonald's All-American
That's right.
game.
Sat Michael Conley, the highest paid player in the NBA. Doug sat him. So we'll take our shots while Doug's out of the room. But Doug is out of the room, Nick, and I got to give you props on something. Doug is out of the room talking to E.J. Montgomery and his family. E.J. signed last night with the university. He announced his signing with the University in Kentucky. Big Blue, Kenny Payne, our friend, John Calipari. We're going to get John on before long. But great move for E.J. What do you think?
I think it was great, and especially if you listen a couple episodes back when you were fighting fires or out of town, we discussed where EJ would go, and Doug wouldn't tell me, but I told him that he's going to Kentucky.
And you know what? The North Carolina people are going to be upset because a lot of folks thought he was going to Carolina. Some folks thought he was going to Duke. Heck, everybody, it seems, is going to Duke, but hey, Duke's losing everybody this week. What about that? I mean, Bagley committed, Gary Trent. I mean, not Gary. What's Trent's first name? Why am I saying Gary Trent? I forget his first name. Grant Trent. I don't know. What's his name, Nick?
I have no idea what Trent's name is. I'm blanking on it, too.
That's why. And then Wendell Carter Jr. is going in. I guess Wendell's got to pay back all them student loans from Pace Academy from 4 years. And if you don't know what student loans from Pace Academy are, if you're anywhere in the country looking, trust me, Pace Academy in Atlanta, Georgia probably cost as much as Duke does. What do you think, Nick?
I know for sure. I know a bunch of people that went to Pace Academy. They went to public universities and said they paid more for college tuition or more for high school tuition than they did for college tuition.
So anyway, Wendell Carter Jr. is no doubt having to go pro to pay his Pace Academy tuition off and get that loan straightened up. Nick, when Doug comes back, we've got a big call this afternoon. I'll let you tell folks who it's going to be with.
We got legendary coach, fastest to 700 wins, Roy Williams.
From the University of North Carolina, Roy's going to be with us. And we're going to keep it light, man. We're going to talk to Roy about what happened with the Tar Heels this year. Not only what happened with the Tar Heels, but going to talk a little bit about Roy and tell you some insights on him and playing basketball over in the Marion, Asheville area when he was a young man in high school. And talk to him a little bit about the state of basketball, what's going on. And one thing I admire about Roy, and I plan on asking him this, Nick, is unlike other schools, like Mr. Pastner at Georgia Tech or the University of Georgia Bulldogs, Roy plays in state schools an awful lot. I mean, and he really has nothing to win by playing those because he's supposed to beat Davidson. He's supposed to beat UNC Greensboro. He's supposed to beat the smaller schools in South Carolina like Wofford, which he lost to. He's got Elon coming up on his schedule next year. Those games for those players at Elon, Davidson, UNC Greensboro, that's those kids' time to, for lack of a better word, it's their Super Bowl. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I know Wofford, when they won, they all rushed the court, the student body and everything. People camped out 3 to 4 days just to get a ticket to that game.
Yeah, and they go to Wofford this year to play, if I'm not mistaken. We'll talk to Roy about that. We'll also talk to Roy about what to expect from next year's groups of Tar Heels, along with how recruiting has changed over his past 30 or 40 years. Doug will be right back with us, but let's take a break, pay some bills right here on Real Life Basketball, where you find out everything that's real about basketball.
Come see the Carriage family and experience the Carriage difference.
Kia is keeping it real with the all-new 2018 K900. Drive the car LeBron James drives and other NBA players call their preferred vehicle of choice. And right now, Carriage Kia of Woodstock and Gainesville has your new K900 ready for delivery. Go online, handle everything, then upon completion, we will fly you in to pick up your new K900 or deliver it directly to you. Call Chris Stanford directly at 1-866-333-2122. That's 1-866-333-2122. Ask for Chris Stanford. Carriage Kia, 24/7, 365 days a year at carriagekia.com.
Come see the Carriage family and experience the Carriage difference.
And welcome back to Real Life Basketball on the Carriage Automotive Group Skype line. Doug, it's a pleasure this afternoon to have one of your good friends and a legend in the game of basketball. The fastest coach to reach 300 victories in all of the NCAA, Coach Roy Williams of the University of North Carolina, the Tar Heels. Coach, how you doing this afternoon, my friend?
Doing well. I hope you guys are doing well. It's also
yes,
doing good.
I want to thank you again for coming on and sharing some time with us because it's we try to get with the best, and we're glad to have you on.
Well, Coach.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Hopefully your ratings won't go down.
Well, hopefully they won't. But, Coach, I'm going to throw this out there for you, okay? And you'll laugh at this. So next year, when we get a chance during the season, I want to remind you of this. We got a chance in our first year to interview 4 coaches that was involved in the NCAA, okay? Mm-hmm. All 4 coaches went to the Sweet 16. So either that's luck or we just bring folks good news. How about that? So,
well, we've had a pretty good run the last couple of years, but this year we didn't do quite as well. So where the crap were you? Why didn't you call me?
Oh, man. Coach, let's just get into it and talk about it. This year wasn't where you wanted to be. And tell us a little bit about this year's team and what kind of transpired over the season.
Well, you got to understand that at North Carolina or Kentucky or Duke or Kansas, some of those schools, where you want to be is you want to be the last team standing. And so there's 351. And so most years you're really going to be disappointed. In fact, I was a college assistant for 10 years and been the head coach now for 30. And I've only gotten where I wanted to be 4 times. Once as an assistant and 3 times as a head coach. So everybody in the world would love to have that. But my staff at the end of the year, Steve Robinson, who's been with me for 23 years, said, Coach, if you'd have said it, if somebody had told you at the beginning of the year we were going to win 26, we'd be a number 2 seed. We would have a great year, kids graduating, doing the right things. You would have taken that. And I said, yeah, I would have. But right now, that's what we have. I wanted more. And so we did. We won 26, and we're number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. But we did. We wanted more. And I think at North Carolina, we always want more. And we try to strive for that each and every year. But we lost 4 of our top 6 from the national championship team of last year. And so we had some major guys, some guys that had to step up and play major minutes that had never done that before. We had some good plays. We had good games. Had some games not so good. But at the end of the year, we were disappointed because we wanted to go deeper into the NCAA tournament than we did. We won the first game and then lose the second game to Texas A&M, and we had been spoiled rotten because the last 2 years in a row we had played on the last Monday night. And one year we're the not last team standing, but the next year we were the last team standing.
That's it. Coach?
Awesome, Coach. Can you just reflect back and tell us what it was like for you to win your first national championship?
Well, the first one, I'll go back way back. The first one I was assistant with Coach Smith in '82, and I slept a lot better when I was an assistant coach than I do now as a head coach. So that was one big difference at that time. But we've won three titles here at North Carolina: 05, 09, and 17. And 05 was the first one, and it was a fantastic year. We thought all year long we were one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country. Illinois had a fantastic run. They were the number 1 seed. They were number 1 in the country most of the year. They were 37-1. And when we got to the national championship game in St. Louis, people tried to say that we had the best talent, but they had the best team. And it was sort of insult to my guys because they thought that we were a good team as well. And that insinuation sort of gave them another little bump up in their enthusiasm about playing well. And we did. We played exceptionally well in the first half against Illinois. They made a great run in the second half and tied it up. But we made big plays down the stretch and won my first national championship as a head coach. And it was just a fantastic experience. And I told those guys, North Carolina basketball is Dean Smith, it's Michael Jordan, it's Phil Ford. But for the rest of time, North Carolina will also be the 05 national championship team. And then to be able to do it again in 09 was even more satisfying in one way because we were unanimous preseason number 1 and the only unanimous preseason number 1 team ever by the Associated Press. And we withstood all those kind of expectations and pressures and won all 6 of our tournament games by 12 points or more. So that was a great run for us. And then 2 years ago, it was just, or a year ago, I guess it was just a fantastic experience that we were one of those top 10 teams all year long. And we got things going during the NCAA tournament, won 6 in a row, and we were the last team standing against a really tough Gonzaga team that was the true number 1 seed of the whole tournament.
That's great. Now, Coach, being in the game so long, I just got one other question to ask you. And I know some of your players might go, no, he didn't. Can you say which was your best team you've ever coached?
You know, it's crazy because if somebody really put a gun to my head, the best team I ever coached may have been the 97 team at Kansas. We didn't even make the Final Four, or the 2008 team at North Carolina. We lost in the semifinals in San Antonio. But those teams were just unbelievably consistent, both ends of the court, did so many good things, but ran into some problems and ran into a hot team, Arizona, in 97 beat us and then beat 2 more number 1 seeds and won the national championship. And in 08, Kansas beat us in the semifinals and then turned around and won their first national championship in the last 20 years, or I guess last 30 years almost. But anyway, they won it. And those 2 teams may have been the teams that would have beaten all the other teams in the best of 7 series. But you know which ones are the best teams? They're the last one standing. So that's 05, 09, and 17. Those are the best teams.
That's great.
No doubt, Coach. Coach, we call the show Real Life Basketball because we want to hear about the real life of Coach Williams. They can watch ESPN to find out about the games and this and that and another. You were, from what I understand, and I know this firsthand from talking to relatives in Carolina, quite the high school basketball player yourself. Tell us a little bit about Roy Williams, the basketball player, and how that led you into coaching on through the years.
Well, if somebody said I was quite a high school basketball player, you must have been talking to my mom from up at heaven, because I think she would have been the only one that would have classified it that way. But I loved high school basketball. It was extremely important to me. My high school coach was the most influential male in my life. He was the first person to give me confidence and really made me feel good about myself and made me feel like that, hey, things can be really good throughout my entire life. And because of him, I decided I wanted to be a coach myself, and that was a decision I made the summer after my freshman year in high school, and I never varied. But I loved playing, and it still has a big influence on me as a coach because I love the fast tempo up and down, running kind of game as a player, and so that's the way I want to play as a coach. And at that same time, I felt like I was a tough competitor, and I really want kids to be very competitive, so it still has an influence there as well. But right now, the only place that I get to actually compete myself is on the golf course, and I've had 2 knee surgeries and 1 knee replacement over the last 2 years, so I'm wanting to try to play some golf this summer, see if I can be competitive again myself. But high school basketball was really, really important to me.
Well, you did a great job, because I had a friend that said when we played, T.C. Robertson, we knew we had to fight Roy Williams, and he was just all over the court. So you built a legend up there in Western North Carolina. And let me tell you this, my son played football for Lenore Ryan, and the guys over there in Hickory still talk about Roy Williams. Let me ask you a quick question, and I appreciate this about North Carolina. North Carolina goes out and they play the smaller in-state schools like Davidson and people like that. Coach, in the reality of the world, you've got, you need to win the game, but the kids at Davidson or the kids at UNC Charlotte, when they play you in a regular season game, that a lot of times is their, let's just say, championship game, because they're playing the top ACC team a lot of times in the state. Why do you play those games, and why do some other coaches stay away from those games when you have a lot of times nothing to win but everything to lose?
Well, a little bit of the difference is some other teams will play them. They always play them at home, and I like to, all of the schools at our level have guarantee games where you pay teams to come in and play, and I'd rather give the money to teams here in our own state to try to help their program, first of all. But the weird thing that we do, my staff's not that happy with me, is that we go play people on their courts. And, we've played Davidson and Charlotte this year. We played UNC Ashford, opened up their building up there several years ago. Next year, we're playing Elon to dedicate their building, a new building. And the crazy thing is, I even agreed to go down and play Wofford down in South Carolina. And they came in and played us here first, and they beat us this year in our building. So my staff, so next year, they're not real happy with me that we open up at Elon and at Wofford. That's our first 2 games of the year. But a sports writer in Kansas one time wrote an article about guarantee games, and he was talking about exhibition games. Said if you were going to play exhibition games, he wished that Kansas and Kansas State would play one of the 4 non-Division I teams in our state. We had only 4 Division II teams, but so after that, I started playing them every year, one in a regular game and one in an exhibition game to give them the money. And I even gave a writer, he was an old guy, Bob Henson. I really, really enjoyed him, and I gave him credit for it. But I said, I doubt if any of the schools is going to give you a consulting fee or anything like that. But that's where it started. Yeah, they should have, but that's where it started.
Doug?
Coach, being in the game as long as you have, you started young. Of course, we don't say that. How has the recruiting game changed in the 30 years that you've been a head coach? I mean,
Doug, it's changed so much, it's ridiculous. I used to go into high school and meet the guidance counselor and the principal and all the teachers and know the custodians. And now the basketball outside of the high school season, in some ways, with some people, has taken precedent over the high school season, and that really bothers me because I was an old high school coach myself for 5 years, and I hate that. But now you spend more time watching them play with their travel team, whether it be the spring or the summer, and some of them call it all AAU. I just call it summer basketball because very little of it is truly AAU basketball. But you don't get that feeling from the school system. It's just you're not there as often. You go see them play during the year, but so many of the kids make their decision in the fall before their senior year even starts. And I've seen kids talk about that their summer basketball, the travel basketball, is more important to them, in my opinion, than their high school season when you're playing with your friends that you've had forever, playing for your school that's going to be important to you forever. So that part has changed. And then the second thing is there's so many outside people involved. It used to be talk to mom and dad and the brothers and sisters, and maybe the high school coach sometimes was really important. And now you find that scenario very seldom. More likely than not, you're talking to summer people you're talking about to grassroots people. You're talking to hanger-ons. You're talking to people that want something later on in a kid's life, and that part is really sad for me.
Coach, where do we see college basketball going in the next 10 years, do you think?
Boy, I wish I could answer that question. We have the commission that's really studying college basketball and are going to make some recommendations after the FBI thing came out this past summer or fall. And, I'm one of those guys that thinks the game is pretty doggone good as it is. I always see the glass as being half full. They found 4 assistant coaches that did some stupid things that was not right. It's harmful. It's sad that those things happen. But we have 351 Division I teams, and each one of those teams has 4 assistant coaches. So you're talking about 14 to 1,500 coaches, and they got 4 guys. That doesn't mean that everybody's bad. It's just like the one and done rule. There's no perfect rule. LeBron James was perfectly right in making the decision to go straight to the NBA out of high school. There's some kids that make a wrong decision to do that. There's some kids that make a great decision to go after 1 year in college. And there's some kids that do that and make mistakes. But there's no one rule that's perfect there. And there's no one quick fix for college athletics. It mirrors our society. We have people doing things unethically and immorally in our society all the time. So why should we expect everything to be so pristine and so clean? The biggest problem is, to me, is that there's so much money being made, and the kids, whether you agree or don't agree, the kids don't get as much of that money, and they have people telling them, hey, they're using your name, they're using your likeness, but the colleges and the coaches and the athletic directors, they're getting your money. And so it's whether you agree with that or disagree with that, that's the fact of the game, and that's the biggest impetus for change. I personally think that more access by agents, for example, is bad for the game, because I think that agents, what they want? They want your money.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
No
So, but it is. There's going to be some big change, I think, and it'll remain to be seen. Sometimes, you won't change, but sometimes change can be bad also.
Yeah. Coach, I got a question for you. Like I say, we've been in the game all of our life. And I just want to say this right here. With the notoriety that you have, like you and I have had personal conversations, and I don't mind sharing this with people that are listening, that I told you one day, I said, you're one of the few people that if you're coming into an arena or into a gym, all they have to say is, there is Roy. That's just on a first name basis, and everybody know who they're talking about. In society today, they're showing a lot of numbers where coaches on your level make anywhere from $1 million a year to $4 million a year. And they always put that number out there on what you make. And I honestly feel like in some situations, or most situations, the NCAA is using kids. So, like, if you and I were having a conversation, which we are, and I don't care if somebody's listening, it's not like we're talking bad. Do you feel like kids should be paid in some form when they're in school?
Doug, we're getting better. I've always thought that the basketball scholarship, for example, should be at least the equivalent of the best academic scholarship on campus. Here at North Carolina, we have the Moorhead Kane Scholarship. That the Moorhead Scholarship has been the best forever. And I don't even know what it is right now, but several years ago, you got room, board, books, tuition, and fees, just like every scholarship player did. But you also got $4,000 each semester for miscellaneous expense. Well, the basketball player got room, board, books, tuition, fee, and nothing else. And so I've always thought that, number one, it should be as high as the best academic scholarship on your campus. And then secondly, now we have relaxed rules. In the old days, if you gave a kid a hamburger, you had to charge him for it if you were already giving him money for his food. Now you can give him meals the night before a game. You can do special meals. You can do so many things and not take his money away from him, because most of the time he is paying for his own meals. But you can do more meals, number one. Two, we have a cost of living expense where you can give a kid $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 throughout the course of the year for that, miscellaneous expense, if you want to call it that. But every student gets to go home, and a college basketball player has no money to go home. So you give them that. So we're doing better. Do I think we can do more? You're darn right. I think we could, and I think we should do more. But I also never want to get it to be a bidding war, because this is supposed to be amateur athletics. And I'm one of those old school guys. I think, again, the glass is half full. I think we're doing some great things. And Sean May is on my staff right now, who was on our 2005 team. And I look at him and I say, how's this compared to you, big fella? And he just says, gosh, these kids nowadays have it so much better. And they really do, but there's more that we can do as well. I've never been one for saying, hey, let's pay them $10,000 because somebody else is going to want to pay them $15,000. But I do think we ought to make it as much as easy as we possibly can for them and their families. Now you fly families to the Final Four. We never did that until 3 or 4 years ago. But there's a lot of things that you can do to make those lives for the kids and their families a lot easier.
Coach, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you taking the time. We know you're incredibly busy. We thank you for that. One real quick last question. What's the outlook for the 2018-2019 Tar Heels?
Well, we've got 3 kids back that started for us basically all year. We had 4 freshmen, big guys, that never really got to that level they need to be, and they'll say that as well, but they're going to work really hard over the off season, and 1 or 2 of them's got to step forward. But I think they're really going to be good players before they leave, and it's just, is it going to be before my life is over with, is what I tell them. And we have 3 kids coming in. 2 of them were McDonald's All-Americans that are very gifted, and so we'll be a very good mix. We'll have 3 seniors that play a lot, and we'll have 3 freshmen that play a lot, but we'll have a chance. In the last 4 years, our schedule has been the most difficult in the country, the 6th most difficult in the country, the 6th most difficult in the country, and then again this year, number 1, the most difficult schedule. And I think next year could be even more difficult. So it'll be a challenge for us, but it's a pleasure for me to do this with you guys. Doug's old high school coach, and I'll say high school coach and emphasize that more than old. But I did it for 5 years, and I've always had a great warm spot in my heart and mind for high school coaches and what they do with young people. So you've got one of the legends there with you, and Doug, I appreciate you, big fella, and look forward to seeing you down the road.
Roy, one quick thing, okay?
Yep.
Everybody's always trying to get the big coach, Roy Williams or whoever, with a trick question. Now's your shot to get one at Doug. You got one for him on some player you missed out on that he could have helped you with? You got something you want to get Doug with? I'm giving you an open mic opportunity, my friend. All righty?
Oh, we've tried on a couple of Doug's kids the last 3 or 4 years, Jalen Brown and then E.J. Montgomery from his old school kind of thing. We haven't gotten them yet, but Doug gives you a fair shake, and that's all I've ever asked. I've never asked a high school coach to push a kid toward me and hope he never pushes them toward anybody else. So Doug's always given us a fair shake, and when the game starts, when the practice starts, he coaches the kids, and he does it in a tough, old school manner. But when they walk off, he also puts his arm around them. So no, I've got a guy I admire a great deal right there. So no shot is taken because none is deserved.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach. Let me say one thing that I'll never forget, and I think people really appreciate about you. You're from old school, just like Leonard Hamilton's from old school. But I tell you what was so enjoyable when they filmed you in the locker room after a game and you were dancing. I think I texted you and told you I love to see that, Coach.
I can move a little bit and tap a foot, but I can't do the things the kids can do nowadays. So I just jump around and act like I'm moving.
Hey, that's what we do. That's what they do too, Coach. So.
Hey,
that's
Coach,
right.
Coach, just always remember what my grandmama told me. God didn't put praying knees and dancing feet on the same legs. And you're a college coach. You got a lot of praying to do to win them games. So don't dance no more.
No, Coach.
I'm going to remember that one.
All right.
That's it. Man.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Thank you, my friend.
Now.
You too, man. Appreciate it.
Okay. Y'all be good. Okay.
Bye-bye.
University of North Carolina Tar Heels there with us. Great insight. And I like finding out the real life attributes of a coach and what their mindset is. Roy's a regular guy. Yeah. Roy's and I think that's what he portrays as a regular guy.
Oh yeah, he's regular, and the thing is, he has nothing to hide.
I mean,
no, he doesn't. Mm-hmm.
I mean, what he said about players, getting paid, he thinks something ought to happen. Now, what that is, I think everybody thinks that ought to happen. Now, what that is, we don't know right now. But, I mean, you and I could sit here and we could throw baloney on the wall, and it may stick or it may not, and we could come up with ideas. But I like what he said about not making it a bidding war. But at the same time, there's always going to be something that convinces a kid. Like yesterday, for instance, E.J. Montgomery chooses Kentucky over Roy Williams in North Carolina. What, it makes you wonder what goes through a kid's mind to make it. Is it because I heard a kid one time took a school, and this is no joke, because the dorms had individual bathrooms in them. Mm-hmm. And that's what reason he chose one school over another. So you just never know, do you?
Well, I'm going to put it like this, and you know how we can always keep it 100. If you're looking at your final two choices, either Kentucky or North Carolina, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong in any one of those situations.
Yeah.
I mean, because there are two of the upper echelon programs in the country. Great coaches, great facilities, great assistant coaches. I mean,
great men. Mm-hmm. Let's just say that. Great men and good guys. And you know what, man, that was a treat getting to talk to Roy Williams.
Yeah, and I mean, he kept it real as far as how recruiting has changed, where you used to talk to the counselor and the janitor and everybody knew you. And one thing I really respect is, it went from the cleanup guy, janitor, custodian. Those people know sports just like anything else. And he took the time to tell you, that he spoke with them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, because they know what's really going on in the schools. In fact, they run the schools, if you want to be honest about it. But that's a whole nother subject.
Well, it goes back to a life lesson I learned as a young kid. You never kick the shepherd boy because you never know what day you might have to work with him or work for him. You follow what I'm saying? So no doubt. Roy Williams out of Western North Carolina. Great show today, Doug. I mean, it's the off season now. We're going to try to keep getting more coaches on. We're going to talk more about the AAU circuit, or Summer League circuit, as Coach Williams liked to portray it. But just think about this, Doug. In the past 3 weeks, we've had Josh Pastner, we've had Bruce Pearl, now we have Roy Williams. I mean, how are we going to top this?
We're going to do it. We'll get it done.
We'll get it done. Hey, thank you so much for listening to Real Life Basketball. If you'll do us a favor on your podcast, share this with your friends and family. You Carolina people, listen to it, share it with all the Carolina Nation, and let them hear about it. Duke people, you don't like to hear Roy Williams? Tell Coach K to come on with us. We had Jeff Capels lined up, and he took off to Pittsburgh, so we can't talk to him now, but tell Coach K to come on with us. Go to our Facebook page, Real Life Basketball. Ask us questions. We'll get back with you ASAP. And, what do you think, Doug?
Well, let's do this. In the upcoming weeks and the upcoming months, let's see if we can't get some people on here to talk about AAU basketball all over the country.
That's right. Summer leagues all over the country. What's going on? Because it's just like the coach said in that interview. Some kids really, Doug, appreciate their summer league team more than they do their high school team. And guess what? Excuse me. Most of the McDonald's guys are signed, sealed, and delivered and gone at this point. There's no recruiting E.J. Montgomery anymore. There's no recruiting Zion Williamson anymore. There's no recruiting R.J. Barrett anymore. These guys are gone. It's the summer leagues that make a difference and the summer league coaching staffs that make a difference. And we're going to dig more into that and get you in touch where you don't have to look up 50 Twitter handles to figure out what's going on. You can just listen to Real Live Basketball and share it with your friends. And we promise to bring you on some real experts that know the behind-the-scenes details of what's going on. Of course, we're always going to keep you in college basketball and let you know. And we'll throw a little bit of pros out there once the playoff starts. But all I got to say is, why don't the Hawks keep losing? Why don't they? Why should they win a game from here on out, Doug? Does it make any sense?
Well, they're playing it out. I don't know how it's going to come out, but
I mean, Lord help! Lose every game, get in the lottery, get a top 3 pick at least. This is one of the few years. I mean, think about it. Think about all the kids that are coming out early. Colin Sexton committed this past week.
He sure did. We need to get Colin on the show.
We do need to get Colin on the show, and his coach George told me he would get him. So we'll do that. We'll work on doing that. We'll work on getting some other kids on too. So
well, congratulations to E.J. Montgomery. I'll be calling you soon as well.
That's right. And maybe you can maybe since he's turned politician on us. but he's also an NBA All-Star and a dunk champion and everything else. Maybe you can figure out a way after the season's over to get your old buddy Jaylen Brown on with us, too. What about that?
Hey, we'll talk to him.
Hey, here's what we got to say to him. We got to leverage it, Doug. Here's what you got to do. You got to say, Jaylen, you was my second number 3 pick. Now, my first number 3 pick, Sharif came on with me and gave me a good interview. When you going to do that, son? And who knows? But you know what? We're proud of him and what he's doing and the way he's standing for his beliefs. And you know what? I'm proud of any young man, even if I don't agree with them, for standing for what they believe in outside of their chosen profession. And I ain't going to get into the details of that because it's not a political show, Doug, as you well know. But you got to be happy that young folks are doing that today, don't you?
Most definitely. Hey, it's like say you don't want to get into it, but fact is fact. It's about saving lives right now as well.
So anyway, thank you for listening to Real Life Basketball. Like I said before, go to our Facebook, reallifebasketball.com. We got a website coming up soon. You can also go on your iTunes, subscribe to the show. You'll get a new show every week, sometimes two. But Doug, it's been fun. Thank you, my man.
Oh, yeah, great.
All righty. Have a great day.